Guys, so let's jump into section 3.1, and this is a really good chapter here because now we're going to be introducing supply and demand. You're probably already going to know a little bit about this, but we're going to go a little bit deeper into it. So the first thing is we're going to discuss the difference between organic and conventional real quick. So if we were looking at apples real quick, and the organic one costs, $2.75 a pound for the organic ones, and then the conventional one, which would be the non-organic, that might be like $1.72 a pound. So, what's really the difference here going on, right? Because they're both the same thing, but why does one cost more? Now you're probably thinking, okay, well, they're not the same thing. Now, can you tell me why? Is it because of the process it goes through, maybe in terms of pesticides? Maybe it's the process on how they're handled more by a human instead of a machine, right? You have to be able to explain to me why there's a difference. Because then you'll be able to tell me why it costs more. And what we're going to do is those reasons that you might have listed off, those are going to be determinants of demand or determinants of supply. Basically, what is making you want to pay more for something? Or what is making the price that firms are charging higher? So that's what the introduction is going to be about, is just what forces are keeping the prices different. So, it could be everything that I just said, right? It could be the process it goes through. It could be, people just like the apples. Maybe they see like, oh, this one's bigger than this one, right? It could be something completely something that you never thought of, but it's something that is making somebody want to buy it more. So whether someone substitutes name brand for store brand, right? Because maybe it would be cheaper. Maybe they think it's better. Like sometimes I think HEB products are going to be better than name brand. That's just me though, right? Or they pay thousands of dollars for John Lennon drawings because of why? Why would someone pay thousands of dollars for just one drawing? And you're probably thinking, well, it's a really famous person. Or maybe you're thinking, well, there's only one of them, so it's like, okay, that's worth a lot of money. Or someone is like a really, really big fan of them, and they're like, they'll do anything to get it. So there's a lot of different factors that could go into any decision, especially those high purchase ones, because that's where a lot of people are like, why would you ever do that? And then other people are like, why aren't you doing it? Two different sides. So there are demand and supply factors that are always going to be affecting the price and quantity on things. And we're going to go through a little bit more about what those are. So, for instance, let's talk about gasoline prices for a quick idea on what's going on here. So, during a hurricane, all right, like let's say if we were here in San Antonio, all right, and there's a hurricane coming, what do people instantly start doing at the gas station? And this actually happened a few years ago, right? They started buying gas. People were lining up like crazy at the gas station in order to get the gas, right? Because they believe, like, oh, I need to get the gas before everybody else does. So that happened. And then, because everybody started buying gas, what do you think happened with the businesses? Well, all of a sudden, people started buying more stuff, and then because of the hurricane, they couldn't start making more oil, or they couldn't start processing the gasoline. They had to bring it in from another state. So, what happened? Firms run out, higher cost. So, this is a little bit two ways on what happens with gas prices sometimes. Is we're having one side where people are just buying it like crazy, and so If everybody's willing to buy it at the same time, well, would you pay more for it? And during the hurricane, people are like, whatever the price is, like, I'll pay for it. So yeah, there's that. And then all of a sudden, we're having the firms run out of it. So we have a shortage situation where we don't have enough. And then all of a sudden, we started to have to get it from another place. So since it's coming a longer distance, higher cost, because it's have a higher cost, what happens to the price? It starts to go up. So all of that was happening within short month, a short month time span. And so that's a little bit of an introduction into, how gasoline prices are having the supply and demand factors. So let's go into the first one, which is going to be about demand. Now, demand is going to be relatively simple. And what I mean by simple, I like to think about like, what would I do? What would you do? Because most of the time, we are the ones that are demanding things. Now, what is demand? Demand is the amount of a good or service consumers are willing and able to purchase at each price. So basically, I'm willing to pay, $4 for 5 apples. Right? That's just what I would do. That's my demand. At that price, I would buy this quantity. Now, for you, it could be different. It just depends. And so that's what demand is about, is looking at how much you're willing to pay for something. And it's broken down to 2 things, right? It's broken down to price and the quantity. So your demand is really about how much you like something. And go back to the John Lennon painting, right? If someone really liked it, they're going to really demand it. And then they go to the price and the quantity. So your demand is really what happens first, and then we can figure out what the price and quantity is next. So price is what a buyer pays for a unit of a specific good, whether it be, one painting, or whether it be per pound if you're going to the grocery store, right? Or it could be, what's another measurement? Per pound's like a really good one. Or per unit, per ounce, things like that. So that's what the price could be. Most of the time it's like for a single unit, but it really could be a packaged group like Costco, right? You buy one box of stuff and it costs this price, and it has like 10 things in there. So, but that's the price for that one box. So, what is the quantity demanded? Quantity demanded is going to be the total number of units of a good or service consumers are willing to purchase at a given price. So, let's say, I wanted to buy 5 apples at $4. Well, what if the price goes down to $2? Ooh, okay. Do I buy more or less? Well, it's cheaper, right? So I could buy more if I wanted to. So that is where the quantity demanded comes in. Because of the price change, right, I could have a different amount of quantity that I could buy. So quantity demanded, right, is not about how much I like something, because that's demand. Quantity demanded is about how much you are quantity, how much you are demanding. So there's a big difference between demand and quantity demanded. Quantity demanded is just the quantity, and then demand is how much you are wanting or willing to buy something. So that leads us into the law of demand. So let's think about you and me for a second, okay? If the price is higher, do you buy more stuff or less stuff? Well, it's more expensive, so I'd probably buy less stuff. Sure enough, that's what the law of demand is saying. Keeping everything else about demand, basically, like how much you like something doesn't change. If the price were to be more expensive, right, you would buy less of it. And if the price were to go down, right, it's cheaper, could you buy more of it? Yes. Let's say that you were trying to find a car that you want to drive. Okay, but you only have $10,000 or $5,000, right? It doesn't matter. But you only have this amount to buy a car with. So you have 0 cars, but if the price drops down to 5,000, guess what happens? You buy it, so now the quantity increases. Law of demand: price down, quantity up. So that is how the demand works. And this is what it looks like. So you're going to be probably given 2 things: a demand schedule or a demand graph. The demand schedule is a table that shows you the range of prices for a certain good or service, and then the quantity demanded at those prices. So when I told you earlier I would pay $4 for 5 apples, right? We would see price for quantity 5. We would see that on the demand schedule. And sure enough, that's what happens here if we were dealing with like gasoline for the state of Texas. So at $2.20, right, we're going to demand 420 million gallons. But what's happening as the price goes down? Looking at the numbers here, price is going down, quantity is going up, because now at $1.40, people are now demanding 600 million gallons. And that makes sense, right? Because if gas is cheaper, yeah, I'm going to buy more of it. And if I'm buying more of it, so is somebody else. So that's what's happening with lower prices, the law of demand. Now, what we do with this information on the demand schedule is we're going to take all that information and we're going to put it on a graph. So now the demand curve is going to be a graphic representation of the relationship between price and quantity. So basically what's happening here is you're going to have quantity on the horizontal axis and you're going to have price on the vertical axis. So the law of demand still applies. Lower prices, more quantity. And that's what's happening here on this demand graph. Because at $2.20, it's 420 gallons, we can see that right here. And then all of a sudden when the price goes down to $1, we can now see it's at 800 gallons. So right there. So the law of demand says at lower prices, we're having more quantity demanded. Okay? And that is what it looks like on the graph. The law of demand has an inverse relationship. So if you are reading this left to right, what's happening to the graph? It's going downwards. And if you're going downwards, sometimes it's going to be a negative relationship or an inverse relationship. So when we say negative relationship, what we're trying to say is that one's going up, one's going down. So if price goes up, do you buy more or less stuff? Less stuff. And if things were cheaper, would you buy more or less? More. Okay? So that's what we mean by a negative relationship. Okay? So that's what we're talking about with demand. Later on, we're going to be talking about the determinants of demand, like the more specific things that you're going to be demanding. But right now, the main thing is understanding what the demand schedule looks like in the demand curve. Now, you might, have to draw the graph from the demand schedule. And all it is just plotting points on the graph. So if you were to start from nothing, what you would do is you would have the graph started. What goes on the vertical axis? Price. What goes on the horizontal? Quantity. And now you can start putting in your information. So, you kind of have to play around with it, but, start here, start at the top, 220, and then you're going to do 420 here. So that's a point, and then we'll keep going. We'll do $2 and $4.60. So we'll do $2 and $4.60. So that'll be that point right there. And then you keep going for the different points, and then sure enough, You draw the line, and that's your demand curve. So if you are asked to draw the demand curve, you have to be given some sort of information in order to draw it. So we'll definitely have some practice with that. But the main thing is the law of demand. Higher prices, lower quantity. Lower prices, more quantity. All right, and then the law of demand says, the demand itself is your willingness to pay for something. So in the next section, we're going to be talking about supply. So the little flip side of demand. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I'll see you there.